emissions.
All right.
Oh my
Okay.
God. Okay, turn it that way. Rotate it a little bit.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. So here's the problem. Every time Danny tries to go live, it gets mad at him. YouTube is like, select a product. And he's like, I don't want to select a product.
So yeah, I'm not. We're not trying to make you buy shoes, but
No, I scrolled through. I was like, hey, if we have to select a product, at least I'm going to choose something cool.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
right.
I selected a toy dump truck. So just so you know, if
we're
you
not-
buy the dump truck, Danny gets a 5% commission on it. So go ahead and click the link for the dump truck.
that was the oddest thing, right? It wouldn't let you go live without
We
putting
couldn't.
the product.
Yeah,
Okay,
we couldn't
so-
go live without the product. So
Okay,
all right,
so-
let's get back at it. I'm sorry, that was hilarious. Well, maybe you'll get some additional sales from this trip.
Maybe somebody buy a little toy truck. Well,
Oh gosh.
and that teaches me. Well, what is it? Don't try to do double or practice before doing this.
Yeah,
in front
well,
of
it's, I mean,
y'all.
you can't practice unless you go live. You
Yeah,
know? So that
yeah,
was a
so-
practice, and that's fine. You know, we're always improving,
Yep.
and we are always in training.
Kaizen.
Kaizen. Absolutely.
All right.
So, all right, Chop Mom, we are ready for question number 2.
Okay, question number 2, and welcome back, folks.
Welcome back, everybody.
All of the following conditions could cause an increase in hydrocarbon emissions except
Ooh, it's an accept question. These get me. Okay,
A.
all of them except.
A, missing air pump drive belt, B, EGR valve stuck closed, C, evap system leak, D, EGR valve not seating.
There's the thing about these EGR.
Hydrocarbons.
These questions are kind of going with EGR, and it's saying high carbon, right?
Mm.
Is that the
Hydrocarbons.
hydrocarbon?
Hydrocarbons.
Oh,
All of the following conditions could cause an increase in hydrocarbon emissions except
which means
An
fuel.
increase. An increase in hydrocarbon emissions.
Running too
missing
rich.
air pump drive belt,
Yes.
EGR valve stuck closed,
No.
evap system leak, EGR valve not seating.
It's except. So all of them could, except for one of them.
Only the belt that I think of. If the air pump belt is off, then it's not going to pump air into the system to be rich. High hydrocarbons, there's rich, right? Too much fuel.
Well, it just says an increase. It doesn't say that it's rich. It says-
No,
Yes,
an increase.
An increase over stock. So on Toyotas, the air pumps, they preheat the catalytic converters. So I don't know what air pump belt here on what vehicle we're talking about, but when I think about air pumps that aren't working correctly, that will increase the hydrocarbons beyond stock because the air pumps will preheat the catalytic converters to work as efficiently as possible. So I think that A is not the answer.
Okay.
I'm a little bit leaning toward the evap system leak because that I think is the only thing that is not going to affect tailpipe emissions. It will.
Well, if an EGR valve is stuck closed, that wouldn't affect. If it was stuck open, actually it wouldn't idle at idle. It wouldn't idle at all, and it would affect the running of it. But an EGR valve stuck closed,
Oh.
to me, it's just a closed port. You know, the EGR valve is just putting exhaust gases back into the intake manifold. So stuck open could most definitely make it run rough and throw everything off. But
Change to hydrocarbons. Gosh, I would just assume that anything with the EGR would affect hydrocarbons. Wait, did it say raise hydrocarbons?
Increase.
Increase hydrocarbons.
and it was kind of weird about the air pump with the belt-driven air pump.
I don't know anything about a belt-driven air pump aside
Because
from like
that-
superchargers.
Yeah, okay, and that's well, there you go.
Help me out here,
That's a
people.
belt-driven air pump.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that goes back to the old.
Ron Moore is pointing out that the question doesn't say tailpipe emissions.
Oh, hydrocarbons.
It says all of the following conditions could cause an increase in hydrocarbon emissions except.
Oh, I got now.
An increase in hydrocarbon emissions. I guess I would automatically, wow, words, assume that was like just the.
Detectable only through the tailpipe.
I got it. I got it.
Okay, all right.
Teacher,
What do you think?
teacher.
What do you think? What do you think?
The EGR valve stuck.
Absolutely. I knew that one too. I knew that one. That was just amazing to me that it took you that long, Danny.
The EGR valve stuck
closed.
Stuck closed. Okay,
So,
all right.
So let's see what
I was kind of leaning toward evap just because I thought that was the only.
It was kind of a
don't
trick
know.
question, and that's the thing about. This is another.
But I can see
another nugget.
You're probably right. I think that is
Is you got to read it more than the first time I didn't get it. It's when you finally get the question, the way Lawnmower helped a lot. It's taking an ASE test is learning how to take a test.
It is.
Is learning how what they want from you. It's not necessarily knowing everything. It's knowing what they want from you. So studying makes a difference because reading the question correctly. So sometimes it's like if you read it correctly, it's like when it says all but one. You know, in other words, there's it could be a lot of things.
Right.
It's almost like a test on English or in grammar or in. It's not necessarily.
I guess
you gotta
I was
learn how to
just
take a test.
thinking that if there's an evap leak, then there's air being introduced into the system, and most of that,
and it would change it.
and it would change it, but it would change it. It would decrease hydrocarbon emissions because there's less. I don't know, and also a lot of that system is so separate from engine operation. It's like, where is that evap leak?
Yes,
we don't even know.
because if it gets an intake leak, right? Well, then the computer
Then
says,
the computer's
"Hey,"
going to read it lean,
and then
then it's
dump
going to
a lot
dump
of fuel.
Oh shoot! Okay, no, you're right. Okay,
so Shop
now
Mom
that you,
was-
okay,
Mom was
Danny's
at work.
right.
She got
Okay,
it.
let's hear what ASC has to say.
Let's hear what ASC has to say.
The correct answer is B. Hydrocarbons are fuel molecules that fail to burn during the combustion process. Hydrocarbons can also be released into the atmosphere due to evaporating fuel. While the introduction of the EVAP system in 1970 eliminated hydrocarbon emissions from evaporative sources, the combustion process is less than perfect. Under normal conditions, an engine will emit a small amount of hydrocarbons due to temperature variations in the cylinder. Post-combustion controls, like secondary air and catalytic converters, are designed to burn this residual hydrocarbon. That's why a missing air pump drive belt could cause hydrocarbon emissions to increase. A leaking evap system is another condition that could cause excessive hydrocarbons since the evaporative emission system is designed to contain fuel vapor.
Right.
Undoubtedly, the most common cause of high hydrocarbon is an engine misfire. Whenever combustion is incomplete or fails to occur at all, high levels of unburned fuel are discharged into the exhaust. While the cause of misfiring are many, they can be broadly defined as being either electrical or mechanical. An EGR valve that fails to seat properly is one of the many types of mechanical misfires. Under this condition, the air-fuel mixture becomes too weak to burn because it is largely displaced by exhaust gas. Keep in mind that mixture volume is low at closed throttle, and exhaust gas does not contain the oxygen necessary to support combustion. Consequently, the engine will misfire and emit high levels of hydrocarbons if the EGR valve is not seated. The purpose of the EGR valve is to reduce oxides of nitrogen. If the valve is stuck in the closed position, it will have no effect on hydrocarbons. Rather, a valve that is stuck closed will cause nitrous oxide emissions to rise dramatically.
So B, and what was B again? It was
the EGR valve stuck closed.
Stuck closed.
So,
Ding 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 ding.
So it's weird when you get it right, but you got it right for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. These questions
It was an
are.
accept question. That was the point.
Except
Yes,
questions are very hard.
this-
They get me.
This is a lot more advanced than your entry level tech.
Yes.
Yes,
This is,
which is
this
good,
is,
but.
Well, this is advanced.
Yeah.
So this is considered like if I get this one, if I get L1, then instead of just being a master technician, I become a master diagnostic technician. It's like the next level.
That's gold.
So it is.
It's
It's like the lower 1 through 8 that we normally study. That's all that you need to be ASE master certified. This one's like the next level. So yeah, this is way more advanced. And honestly, this is too advanced for me. But this is fun.
This is tough. It's you got to use your brain.
Yes. And Shaman, feel free to choose any of those questions as long as they don't have a picture. As long as they don't have a.
There are no pictures on this page.
That's exactly. That's
I couldn't take the test if there's no pictures.
Okay. Are y'all ready?
We're ready for the next one. We got 2 and 1 so far.
The composite vehicle idles rough and stalls when the transmission is put into gear.
Composite vehicle?
That's what it says.
The composite vehicle.
Idles rough and stalls when the transmission is put into gear.
Okay.
Technician A says that the throttle body may be contaminated.
Yeah.
Technician B says that the circuit to ECM terminal 108 could be shorted to ground. Who is right? Technician A only, technician B only, both A and B, neither A or B.
Okay, I'm going to eliminate D because I don't think it's neither, because I think that Tech A is right. Yeah, dirty throttle bodies, that's a problem. Gummed up throttle bodies, they could get stuck, and you put it into gear, and
if you have a Ford or a Jag, you already know this.
Yeah, okay. We don't see it a lot on Toyotas, okay, but I have seen it happen, so I know Tech A is correct. Tech B, terminal 108 of the ECM shorted to ground.
Way beyond my my technical. Yeah, you know.
We're gonna have to guess.
Well, we're gonna have to guess. Yes. Okay. Well, hold on.
Well, we've already established that technician A could be right.
Yes, and we don't.
So that eliminates D.
And it eliminates B only. So
Right.
all we have left is Tech A only, or both. And so that's, I mean, on an ASE test, if you can get the question down to that, that's good. That's chance. That's 50-50.
And you got to put something down. And if you get to a point where you're waiting too long, make yourself a note, put it down, and it's better to move on, because at the end,
and then come back
when the time runs out, there may be some questions you could have answered. So go ahead and throw a guess at it. If you're, don't spend too much time.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that this question is way too specific to be,
and for them to know that you know every pin on an ECU.
Terminal 108. No, I'm gonna say that they're both. I think I'm gonna say that they're both correct because it's too specific.
I just don't know what pin. I don't know
what pin.
But I can put the in other words, you start overthinking it, because I'm like, you know that on a computer everything is voltage. It either sends 12 volts or 5 volts. Most things are 5 volts, and 1 volt and of a 5 volt. That's your readings.
So Lawnmower is asking a question along those lines.
Yeah.
Are ECM input and output terminals standardized across brands?
I don't know.
I do.
doubt it.
Well, I don't think so, but I also think that the OBD2, there's a standard for like OBD2 pinouts. So I know that there are some standards across the board. Yes?
Okay, go ahead. It's A, because if you ground what I'm thinking about the voltage from 1 to 5 volts, well, grounding it will short it out. There is nothing that goes that it's getting voltage. So in other words, grounding a pin, there isn't anything that I can think of on an ECU that wants ground. It controls relays with ground.
Yeah.
But there's none of
the ECU normally controls the ground side.
Yeah, yeah.
So, That's a good point.
The ECU, all your relays that run everything on your car's not run by relays. The ECU, you don't want to run power through your computer, 12 volts, and then have it send 12 volts to a relay. So the relay always has power going to it, and the ECU controls grounds to all these relays. So grounding a terminal that to me would be no.
Well, if it's grounding a terminal, then whatever that's activating is always on.
Mm-hmm.
How would it change if we put it in drive?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think that pins across ECUs are all the same manufacturer. I personally do not know the answer to that question.
Venom actually says yes.
That ECU terminals,
that they are standardized across brands.
Well, there have to be some that are standardized, because the OBD2 has a standard, and all of those pins are standardized across brands. And then, but you've also got like different manufacturers have totally different modules from one to the other, different number of computers.
And Lawnmower has a good thing,
What does he say?
Well, about the
OBD2 is the industry
OBD2
standard.
is the standard.
Yes.
So you can like pin 1 is always where you get your.
Yeah, but the ECM.
But ECM, yes, which
I
I think he even said. But the ECM itself kind of suspect there.
Yeah, and like they
y'all are awesome. Y'all are
numbers of pins too.
Yes. I don't think ECMs have standardized pinning. Toyota is different, but OBD2 is standardized. That
Well,
one.
so what I'm wondering is like, do the OBD2, do the ports on the OBD2, all 14 of them, do they have to correspond to specific things in the ECM, and is that how it's standardized, or do just the pins on the actual like OBD2?
If I'm correct, though, the OBD2 pins are always the same
Always the
pin
same.
on all manufacturers.
But then, do those correspond to the the pins on the ECMs?
No,
all
yeah,
across
yeah, the
board?
ECM pins. That to me, I thought every ECM had a different pin, a different plug, as far as I know. All right, we need to know the answer on this one.
Well, we have to guess. We have to guess.
let's guess.
If we were in the study, if we were in the test taking center, and we
They
had,
would not allow you to discuss it.
we would not allow. Yeah,
I would say 1, right? A.
you're gonna say A. Okay, I was originally gonna say C because it sounded too specific, but now that we discussed it, I agree with you. I'm gonna say A as well. I'm gonna say Tech A is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see what ASE has to say.
Oh man, this is hard. This is a challenge.
If I get it wrong, I got to
The
drink.
correct answer is C.
I got to drink. I got it wrong.
Both technicians are right. High carbon monoxide emissions are always the result of a rich mixture. This is because rich mixture lacks the oxygen necessary to promote good combustion.
Yes.
As a result, the carbon in the fuel is converted to carbon monoxide rather than carbon dioxide. The fact that carbon monoxide dropped when the PCB valve was. Wait, I'm reading the wrong answer.
Oh,
That's what I say.
No, I am not reading the wrong.
These are tough.
these are tough.
I am reading the wrong answer, although that's a pretty interesting one too. We'll have to do that question next.
Now we know that C is the next one. Okay,
The
okay.
correct answer is C. Both technicians are right. Like all port-injected engines with side draft induction, the throttle plate on a composite vehicle is exposed to unfiltered crankcase vapors. During bad acceleration, these vapors are released into the intake airstream. Since the engine does not use a crankcase filter and the air filter is positioned upstream of the breather tube, the warm vapors are deposited directly on the cool throttle plate. As the vapor condense, they cost the throttle plate and eventually seal the gap between the plate and bore. Since this reduced airflow, they did not write this
No,
correctly.
because how does that have to do with the pin being shorted? A grounded pin
Well,
on the ECM.
that's the first one, was the dirty throttle plate, which I guess technician A was right off the dirty throttle plate for a totally different reason. That is not. Okay, sorry. Keep going,
I'm
Shalom.
sorry. As the vapor condenses, they coat the throttle plate and eventually seal the gap between the plate and bore. Since this reduces airflow and causes a drop in engine speed, placing the transmission in gear, activating the AC compressor, or running the wheels sharply can trigger a stall.
Yes.
The EGR valve on the composite vehicle is activated by a manifold vacuum signal from the EGR solenoid. When the solenoid is energized, vacuum is blocked and the valve remains closed. Once the conditions are right, the ECM activates the EGR valve by grounding the solenoid at terminal 108. If this circuit were shorted or ground, the solenoid would be on all the time and the EGR valve would be open at closed throttle. This would cause the engine to stall, especially when placed under load, such as putting the transmission in gear.
So there we go. So like what an EGR valve does, it recirculates the exhaust gas. Okay, so it lets the exhaust gas recirculate it back in. That hotter temperature helps burn more fuel. Plus, it's recirculating the exhaust gas to get burnt again. But what the thing is that if you're putting in exhaust gas, like the exhaust pipe, back into your carburetor, it wouldn't idle. So when you're idling, it's closed off. It is completely closed off. When you're on the highway and you're cruising and your RPM is up, it can open the exhaust port and put it right back into the intake. The engine ain't gonna know any difference because it's running so fast that now is using that exhaust gas and temperature to go back into the intake manifold to be, better emissions, to help burn more fuel. But once you come up to a stop, it closes the EGR valve. That's why a lot of times the EGR valve gets a lot of crud on it or carbon, and it may close but stay open and idle really rough. So now EGR valves are electronic. So back in the day, they were always vacuum controlled with the vacuum modulator. Now it's even a switch that's electronic, opens the solenoid, and then that opens vacuum. So, but I didn't know about the 108. I guess that's a standard. 108 now we know. Well,
Bob Miller says that he got it right, but he's still having a drink.
okay. I think I'm gonna open the door for Brandon.
He goes with Danny's program.
Is the front door unlocked, or I'm gonna go?
Oh, the front door is not unlocked. So
I am going
that
to-
that is wonderful. Is he here? So as a lot of you might know, Danny and Shop Mom are eventually going to be moving the shop. So they are not taking in any more long-term projects at this time. They're still doing cylinder heads and stuff like that. So so feel free, if you're a customer, definitely still bring in your cylinder heads and stuff like that. But we are preparing to move the shop. And Danny's gonna be building a studio and stuff like that. So hopefully, like, you know, look forward to a lot more of live streams from Danny in the future. But I bought some super parts off of someone like a long time ago, and they've been sitting behind the shop. And so I'm like, you know what? By the time that their lease is up, it's gonna come so much faster than I expect. So I'm starting to move my stuff back now. And while Brandon and I do have date night tonight, I'm making him work for it. He's picking up my subframe today.
Yeah.
So he's here helping us out. So thank you, Brandon.
Do you remember the code on the chain?
Oh, is it mine?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I do. I'll text it to him.
Okay, he's right there now. You can come
Oh,
in.
I don't want to
Yeah,
tell
let's
you.
just tell
Oh, you don't want to tell us?
Because we're
do it
live
out loud,
streaming right
and
now.
everybody will know the code.
That's what I say. Let's just
This has been fun. We've missed this. This
broadcast
is.
it. What the heck?
Yeah. And if it's not,
Your social security number?
Right.
it is not. Oh my
Date
God.
of birth?
Alrighty, Shop Mom. What's our next killer ASE test question?
I'm going to answer a real quick question
Oh, we have a
since we were
question?
doing
Oh,
that.
good.
It was just about the question on the Dodge. If he's still here, could you help me on advice? I'm looking at a 2008 Chrysler 300C Hemi, and the car is decent, but there is a annoying tick. I don't know, should I pass on it? Yes, you should pass on it, unless you're just a Hemi guy and or a Chrysler guy, and you really always love this car. Well, then it's one of those cars that you own and you're always working on, kind of, or it has an inherent problem. If you're like, I like that car, but I have other cars that I like as well, move on to another car that doesn't have this inherent problem. The Hemi has a problem with lifters. So that particular car, the cam is in a tunnel. So there's no splash that can get onto the cam.
Oh, got
and
it.
the worst thing you could do to that car is let it idle. And there's a lifter issue problem through the industry with LSs and Chryslers, and all of them having lifter issues anyway. Plus that
They
particular,
drop seats.
yeah, and they drop seats. Very good shop, Mom. We get those in here. In fact, the video that I had all these heads, you know, asking why people are getting in the industry is because of these dropping seats. So that isn't. Stay away from it. Like I said, your whole life you just wanted this car, and
you want to put in the work to it. It sounds
and there's people. It's almost like an example is the 7M. Everybody hates them because they don't understand them and they're having inherent problems. But you can fix the problem and make it the best thing in the world. But the industry kind of has moved on and went to the 2JZ or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
But that one isn't the same as like, you know, once you fix it, it's going to come back and haunt you. That one had some real simple fixes,
Yeah.
but no one wants to mess with them.
And it was running great now. So
Yeah,
we got
yes,
no problem.
you
There was
and made
I
a lot
took
of
the
power.
risk and I reaped the reward, and that's enough. See, and you know, talking about the ECU and like specific things, it's like that's definitely a specific question for that specific manufacturer. If you were to ask me the same question about the 1GR, the Toyota V6 4-liter, oh, it has an annoying tick, should I buy it? I'd be like, yeah, buy it. They all tick. We joke about it. It's the Tacoma tick, but it'll last until the life of the engine.
Yeah,
That could be
300,000 miles and it's still ticking.
400,000 miles and it's still ticking. Yeah, and,
That's why I know
you
it's
a lot of
alive.
times you hear like these overland or like extreme, not overland, but like extreme off-road guys that will like, you know, similar thing. They'll tilt the damn thing and they'll lose oil pressure for a little bit and the tick just gets louder and louder. I mean, some of these things, once again, have 300, 400,000 miles on them. They're ticking super loud, but they'll go forever.
Yeah,
so
there's your answer to Hemi. Move on, unless you just really gotta have a Hemi.
And you know what's a really good thing about that question too is like, you know, you really, that's the reason why I feel like I really have to study this stuff, because I'm so focused in my own little world of Toyota. There are questions that are not related to just one manufacturer. Or there are questions that are related to one manufacturer, but it's like a different, like, you have to know so much about every vehicle make in order to be able to answer some of these questions, because I've seen some that I've researched and it's like what's the name for like the cylinder deletion?
The cylinder cancellation.
Yes,
That's one
I
of
can't remember
issues.
the name of that, but like
But
it's a
the
common.
shop on window. Yes, Chevy LS is having really bad.
Yes, it's a common issue on
and
the.
so does the Dodge. So does the VA Dodge.
Right.
And there's actually a kit for the Dodge. You can actually go to Chrysler and buy the cylinder cancellation kit. Even
Right.
Chevy has it. Chevy's not going to tell you about that because they don't want to say that it made a problem. But
No,
it kills
exactly.
half the cylinders when you're on the highway,
and
then
you're,
when
and
you're,
during deceleration.
yeah.
as
But the
well,
problem is that's the worst thing for a lifter. In that particular one, like I said, you got to know your vehicles.
Right.
On that particular one, it has an inherent problem with cam and lifters. So you're going to be doing cam and lifters all the time besides dropping seats. So
Yes.
that's really not one, especially like I said, if you're not married to it, if you're not like, man, I
Yeah.
really got to have that car.
Well, luckily that like I saw that I had something in the shop with that cylinder deletion issue. Another tech was working on it. It wasn't mine, but I came up to him and I was like asking him like, hey, like what is going on with this? And just because we had that conversation, that's the only reason I got that question right on the ASC. And then I'll see some stuff that's Toyota specific. I don't know. Are there manufacturers that don't have secondary air injection systems, for example?
No, well, just
Or
about
do they
everything
all?
now. Just
No,
about
all
everything
of it
now.
do? Okay.
Pretty much, you want to pump air, air into for emissions. A lot of times when the air pump started coming in, is when they had to pass emissions.
Yeah.
So the air pump would come in, and it actually wouldn't even pump it into the engine. I mean, it is the engine if you think of the exhaust manifold, but really it's just pumping in a lot of fresh air.
Just to the cats.
Yeah, just to the exhaust, to the cats. And then that was when it was just trying to get to be
Up
not
to temp.
not so rich. Well, first it was just not be so rich.
Oh,
it's really
right,
rich,
okay.
and they're going to pass emissions, dump a lot of air in it.
Right,
Volkswagen used to right off the bat turn on this big old pump and that would always go bad.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
big
yes,
old pump that was like a supercharger that would pump all this air in the pipe.
And they're loud.
And it passed emissions.
Right.
But now they're actually pumping air in to get the exhaust temperature up.
Yes.
So if you want to pass emissions, Toyota's one of the bad. Dave Phillips, we went around this because he's helping me develop the new hot vapor engine and stuff. And what we want to do is get the exhaust temperature, the catalytic converter, up to temp.
ASAP.
Extremely fast.
Yep.
If it's 6 milliseconds, 10 milliseconds, you did not pass the EPA test.
Yeah.
You must and they do a cold test start.
Yes.
So right when it starts, they're sniffing the pipe already. Yes, in a minute you can pass, but you failed the test. So Toyota, that's why Toyota. You wonder why cars now have 2 catalytic converters and they got 4 upstream, downstream,
I know, they're all.
And Dave said Toyota. One of the first things that Toyota started doing is making smaller cats.
Yep.
And they put them right at the manifold
Right
now. They mount them to the manifold.
They've been doing that for a while.
Yeah,
actually,
they've been
since the
one of the
90s.
first to kind of like not the first, but really
I think
enhancing
Honda
that.
did it too. Don't they have that cat like
Right
off
at the
exhaust
pipe,
manifold?
and the reason is they need to get it up to 1900 degrees instantly.
as quick as possible.
What's another way to get a cat up to 1900 degrees instantly? Lean the bejeebas out of it. But you look up bejeebas, and that means really fast. So what they do is a cutting torch. When you hit oxygen, it cuts things. It gets really, really hot. It leans out.
Yep.
So they started pumping air into the exhaust to get that catalytic converter cherry red really fast. So now they're using air pumps, to actually, not just pumping. At first, it was just faking the tester because I'm pumping in so much air into it that it's actually not even going through the engine. But now it's actually tuning.
Wasn't that what Volkswagen did?
Yes, they did the tune. So what they found out was that how EPA tested their cars. Right, so they did them on a rolling.
Right, they plugged it in. It changed. It
yes.
changed the tune.
Well,
as soon
they
as
knew.
plugged in
I don't know the RPM, but let's just say EPA tests all emissions at 2,500 RPMs. That's a cruising speed. I don't know what the RPM was. So Toyota said, we're going to get in here
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen, sorry, not Toyota. And we're going to get in here and we're going to manipulate the computer to be normal, but at 2,500 RPMs, at this engine
when it's
speed,
plugged in.
at this tire speed,
Yeah.
whatever, all of a sudden it went super lean. The car would not be able to run there in a real world application.
No.
But only at that specific RPM that they're testing on a chassis dyno, on a rolling dyno, it went super lean because that's what they tested at. So it was a way they were cheating in a sense. So they made their software tune to pass the emissions. But when it was at 100 RPMs less or above, it was butt rich.
Yep.
But right there where they test, so that's why
I kind of think it was brilliant, and I love that it was discovered by like a community college that had put in their own testing facility, and they were just like testing like the student vehicle,
Yeah,
the
and
teacher vehicles,
they weren't
or
getting the
something.
results that
And they were
the
like,
EPA
"What's wrong?"
was
And they were trying to
testing.
figure out what was wrong with their system. And anyway,
Yeah.
I've only got a few more minutes. I want to
Okay.
make sure we can sneak in a couple more test questions if we can. So
Let's
I'm
go.
not- yeah.
Yeah, because we do tend to run off the
I'm
list.
sorry. I go.
No,
we get,
no,
we
No, this
I
is
think
all
I-
on topic.
I think it's really good. I think it's really good. And by the way,
She's so encouraging.
Jose wants you to know you're a supermodel. And as soon as those checks start hitting the bank, you just let us know. We'll help you spend them.
Thank you, Jose. Oh, I think. I'm sorry. Faye,
We
I
did.
didn't see that.
Which reminds me. Speaking of Danny being a supermodel, there. If anyone is on Instagram, there is currently a is it Engine Pro?
Oh, Engine Pro.
Engine Pro. Will you go to their Instagram? They recently did a casting call. If everyone can go and tag Danny or just like say, hey, you guys need to hire Danny for this role, that would be amazing. They're doing a casting call for looking for people that are knowledgeable about engines and are really good at talking to like the average person about products and about how engines work and everything like that. So if everyone can go on their Instagram and just help nominate Danny, even though he did already fill out an application, everything like that, but let's just bombard them with kind words and positive recommendations for Danny. We'd really appreciate that.
I think Engine Pro. I think Shop Mom agrees with me. I think Engine Pro needs a team.
Oh, jeez, I don't
because
know.
it's more
He's
than-
the expert, you know. Like,
Well, it's not.
You've come a long way, Faye. You've
Yeah,
come
yeah,
a long way.
and it's a lot more than just being an, because you can be dry, if you can be an expert on just technical so much, but not be personable or not know how to talk or have fun. And people love. I find, because I learned from my uncle, everything's a joke, or not a joke. Everything's not a joke. Everything is humorous. He taught by you remember because it was a funny something. It was fire hot, something funny. So
Fire hot, tree pretty.
yes. So you teach with humor. So anyway, there's a new way of teaching, and these
I love
days.
the chiefisms.
Yes, we love our chiefisms. Okay,
We have time for one.
One
Okay,
more,
let's
here we
hear
go.
some. We got one more.
we got time for one more.
And I picked this one because I just love this question.
Oh, good.
What is the most effective way to test the PCV system? A, shake the valve to see if it rattles.
Oh,
B, perform a vacuum draw test. C, perform a PM drop test. I'm sorry, that's an RPM drop test. D, measure the vacuum signal at the valve.
okay. Well, I mean, I like to take the PCV valve and I'll just put a hose on it, so I'm not putting my mouth on it, and I'll suck on it. But I also shake it till it rattles. But I noticed that you said system, not valve.
That's exactly right.
PCV system, not valve.
That's exactly right.
And there is more to the PCV system than just the valve.
So I would think check the vacuum.
I'm going to eliminate A. So you
which
read.
is shake the valve.
Shake
to
the
see if it
valve,
rattles.
but I do
really
that.
Like that answer.
I do that.
B, perform a vacuum draw test. C, perform an RPM drop test. Or D, measure the vacuum signal at the valve.
Can it be B and D, or it only has to be one?
Well, I'm gonna eliminate D because it's a vacuum system at the valve only, and the vacuum signal at the valve only, and they specifically said system, not valve.
The problem with your thought process, and I'm just giving you a little hint here.
Oh.
Remember, they write these questions to try to trip you up so that you do overthink it.
We overthink everything, so.
And I'm going back to, I've seen Danny do this 1,000,000 times on a PCV valve. I've seen him do it just like for our whole lives together.
Shaking it? But that's, once again, that's just the valve. That's removing the valve.
What did you say at the beginning, Faye? You don't want to put your mouth on it.
Yeah, you don't, because you suck in the, but yeah, that's because if I test to see if the valve is bad, I like to just make sure that the spring hasn't collapsed. I make sure that one side air can go through and the other side it can't, and I'll suck and blow. But I don't know what the tests are for either B or C. I'm not sure what the specific RPM drop test is.
Danny, do you have an answer?
Do you know what an RPM dropped or?
I would think I always pinch the hose. I always pinch the hose to see if the idle change, the RPM changes.
Maybe that's the RPM drop test.
Well, then maybe that's it. So I don't know what it's called because I grew up in a different world.
Can you read B and C one more time?
B is perform a vacuum draw test.
Vacuum draw test.
C is perform an RPM drop test. D is measure the vacuum signal at the valve.
At the valve.
See, I would think that because a PCV valve could be a good PCV valve and working, but if the vacuum that's being pulled on it is not correct, it's not going to act right. If the vacuum is too low, it's never going to open. It's going to be just a shut port. If the vacuum is too high, it's going to spring open and never close, and it's going to be a vacuum leak. So the only way that a PCV valve works correctly, it's matched perfectly with the vacuum in the hose. If even on engines that get older, or when we put in a camshaft, a bigger cam on a motor, if you get into too big of a cam, you get too much overlap and you lose vacuum.
Oh.
Well, one of the most common things on hot rods, the very first thing is that you start smoking real bad. Why? I don't know. I just put in the cam. Why am I smoking? Well, because the cam is not pulling enough vacuum off the PCV valve, and it's hung wide open, and you're just sucking all your oil out of the valve cover right into your intake manifold because you're not pulling hard enough on that. That's why we have your PCV valve that you have the Wagner, the adjustable one.
Yes.
That's for performance.
Okay.
That is when the engine has been changed.
Yes.
That one is actually adjustable.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, you actually pull vacuum on your engine. You find out what your engine has. It has 14 inches of vacuum, 8 inches of vacuum, and this PCV valve, it's a billet one, has a little port. You hook up a little gauge to it. It has a little screw, an Allen screw, and you can set that PCV valve to whatever vacuum. Your engine could have 3 inches of vacuum, and it could still work.
So, but to test it though, when you say you pinch the hose, is that B? Is that?
I'm pinching I don't know. I don't know what it's called. I'm pinching the hose to see if it's an open vacuum port. In other words, if the vacuum wasn't if it's hung open, and if I pinch it and then it idles better, if it changes the vacuum by pinching or non-pinching it, generally when it's working correctly, it's going tick 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 tick. It's a metered orifice.
Will you read B and D one more time?
Yeah, let me go back to it because I was looking at the clock and noting that you guys are...
Okay.
We're almost there.
Yes. So let me go back. We have a lot of really cool questions in here. I don't know if you're aware of that.
We'll have to do some more of these. I love these. The book is brand new. I've only read the first couple of pages, so.
Okay, so you're asking for B and D?
Yes.
B is perform a vacuum draw test.
Vacuum draw.
D is measure the vacuum signal at the valve.
That's the one I think.
All right.
Because I don't understand how to do a vacuum draw test.
I don't know how to do a vacuum draw test. I was thinking like vacuum draw.
Like he says that because I've seen him do that 1,000 times.
D?
B.
Yeah, well, that's what I was wondering. I don't know what vacuum draw test means, but it sounds like it's removing vacuum. So when you say you pinch the hose, that was what I envisioned for vacuum draw test. But I don't know what I don't know what the right term is. So what do you guys think?
It says replace the engine.
Replace the engine. Just lift up the radiator hose and drive another car underneath the radiator cap. That was the whole thing from back in the day.
The correct answer is B.
B.
With the exception of response C, RPM drop test, each of the methods listed can be used for testing the PCV system, in whole or part on a computer-controlled engine. The RPM drop test is only effective for testing the PCV system on older engines without feedback control.
Which one thing I know.
Shaking the PCV valve can help uncover a clogged valve. It provides no evidence that the entire system is working properly. Checking the vacuum signal to the PCV valve is another legitimate test. However, it too does not verify the integrity of the entire system. Only a vacuum draw test can determine how well the PCV system is working and is therefore the most effective method. The draw tester is placed over the oil fill hole, oil fill cap removed. Inside the tester is a ball that responds to the level of crankcase vacuum present. If the PCV system is working properly, it will draw a slight vacuum on the crankcase that pulls the ball into the safe zone. If a draw tester is not available, the same test can be performed using an index card placed over the oil fill hole. If the PCV system is functioning normally, the card should stay in place with the engine idling.
Whoa.
And you know what? Here's the key. What the little nugget that I learned on this one.
Yeah.
System.
Yes.
I was doing how to, like I said, Elaine said I've done this my whole life. How to check the PCV valve.
Valve.
Right.
Yes.
Not
And
the
that's what I thought.
system.
Like my first thing was, oh yeah, like I shake it. I
Yeah,
shake
yeah.
them
Like I said, we
all.
always listen to him clicking.
Yes.
The system. So everything working properly. So now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. It's.
I
you
don't know
really
the name of
gotta-
the test. I gotta research that.
Yes, it's like I said. You got to learn how to take these tests because like I said, you instantly go to well, like I said, how I check a PCV valve.
Right.
But that wasn't what the question asked.
The question
it
was
didn't
the
ask how do you check
system.
a PCV valve.
Yeah.
So this was way too much fun. It
Oh.
is 4:30.
Yes.
It is date night.
It is date night with Brandon and I. Now the next
We're
two
done?
Fridays I will be out of town. My little brother's wedding is next week, and then I was supposed to be in Toyota training this week, but there is some hurricane-ish weather in Houston, so it got rescheduled to the week
Mm-hmm.
after. So we will let you guys know when we plan on doing this again. But I think we should pick up
I
with
think
more
right
of
where-
these questions. This is so fun, and
This
I
is-
really
It's a
enjoyed this.
blast. It's a blast.
It's so fun.
Shotbaum got more right than I did, I think. But and
More than me too.
Yeah, and I think what we've gotten from every single time, it's not like we're talking to ourselves.
Yeah,
Y'all
a lot
y'all
of people are.
Yes.
Yes.
We're just having a fun time.
No,
Okay.
for sure, and I'm impressed by what everyone knows and the
A lot of them are
guesses.
pretty good.
And there were some really intelligent questions, and it's like, but at the same time, it's like, well, I'm not a mechanic, but I'm like, well, you certainly talk like you are. So.
Yeah, you're hey, it's just fun. Peace and assembly grease from Jay
Thank
Scott.
you everyone so much
Thanks
for being
coming.
here.
I'm gonna put
And
that.
stay tuned on Danny's channel and also his Instagram. That's where he makes his announcements that he's gonna go live here with me. So definitely follow Danny on Instagram if you are not already. And also you have another live stream planned. Was it next week or the following week?
Oh,
or...
no, well, that's yet to be determined.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Yeah,
yet
to be
to be
determined. We may
Sorry.
wait till Faye comes back because it's okay. We got plenty of things to do. Like I said, we're still gonna, we're dying to just do something with the hot vapor car.
I was peer pressuring him to come over this
gonna
weekend,
do
but he's
Saturday-
got a project. Your AC went out.
My AC went
More
out at home.
important, more important.
And last night I worked on it last night, and
And then he's got Liz
hodgepodge.
Waller coming over on
it
Sunday.
working-
Which means up with a car. Just have
Yeah,
fun.
so anyway.
Yeah, crazy. That's okay. So I've got a couple customers dropping off their cars in the shop on Sunday as well. So all right, not
No
Saturday,
rest.
but
Worry.
no,
And
but
it
we'll
was
figure it out.
several times this week. She said, "Well, how about how's Saturday looking? How's Saturday looking?" And
Happy for
so yes, it's
car.
just under a car cover. So maybe one of these times we're gonna do maybe a live stream from the garage. But we're still looking for a venue to actually put it to the track.
Yep.
So that's all that's really. We gotta drive it. We gotta,
gotta
but
drive
it doesn't have
it,
any tags, so we really can't drive it on the street.
Yeah, we
I mean,
gotta
it's a
tow it
historic
somewhere.
car. So
I
anyway,
don't want to break Jose Ortega's heart, or Ortega, as we say in Spanish.
Yeah.
He wants to hang out with Faye Hadley. I'm pretty sure she's spoken for, and Brandon comes with. But
yes. So you don't mind hanging out with Brandon as well, and
We love Brandon.
Brandon's a lot of fun.
Brandon's
He's yeah. So
Brandon is awesome, and
So-
you guys have been spectacular. Peace and assembly. Grease.
Thank you
Yes.
so much for being here today, you guys,
everybody.
and we will see you in our next live stream.
yes.
All right, bye.
Sorry for the delay at the beginning.
We are
Let it go.
sorry for being humans, okay?
Peace and 7 degrees, everybody.